Hello there, welcome back to the booth here in Atlanta, Georgia. That's Paul Chiano, I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. Thanks so much for coming along for coverage of our first booster draft here on day number 1. We've got Ben Stark. We're going to be following him all the way through his draft. We already watched him draft and actually had a chance to chat with him for a minute. He said he thinks his deck is kind of in the middle, right? It's not one of these, he calls them a broken deck, but it's also not terrible. He says, I did pass a lot of Dimir cards,
He came up to the window and I was like, this, or this, and he's like, this.
Yeah. So, and his opponent on the other side of the table in round 1 is going to be Jessie Butler. Had a quick look at his pool. Don't know exactly how Jessie ended up building it specifically, but it looks like it's going to be a Golgari deck, maybe even with a white splash. So let's head on down. It's time for round number 1 here from Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. Hello and welcome back to coverage here at Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Paul Chiano, and it is that time. It's time to kick things off here at the Pro Tour. Round number 1 is upon us. We are drafting Guilds of Ravnica. We've got Ben Stark in the feature match area. He is facing off against Jessie Butler. There's Ben. And Jessie's from the United States as well. There's Jessie. And Jessie has brought what looks to be a Golgari deck to the table with, we think, is going to be a pretty strong chance that he's going to be splashing white in this deck, Paul.
Yeah, he's got a Camaraderie in his deck, which is a very powerful card, and he's got a Flower Flourish along with a Selesnya Guildgate, so it seems pretty likely that he would be splashing for that powerful rare.
There's Ben's first pick of the draft, Nightveil Sprite on the battlefield now here on turn number 2, right when you want it. A dead weight would do quite nicely here for Jessie, though he does have a hired poisoner to help lock down the ground game. The Nightveil Sprite can fly over that quite easily. Here's a Burglar Rat.
No Nullhide Ferox from Ben Stark. He's blue-red. Don't have to worry about that.
And he's going to discard his most expensive card in hand here, Inescapable Blaze. So let's see if Ben can kind of work his way through here using the Nightveil Sprite to chip in for damage, but more importantly at this point, get the Surveil going. He sees, is it Guildgate? And he's going to put that in his graveyard, play a land, and then pass the turn back. Interesting here from Ben's perspective, no Electromancer yet, even though he's got, 4 or 5 of them in the deck.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at his pool, and he's got 5.
Boom!
Probably playing all of them. But, Nightveil Sprite, definitely the superior turn 2 option. It just continues to allow you to kind of sculpt your draws, make sure you hit your land drops, and once you hit the appropriate number, then you can just make sure you just draw, spells throughout the rest of the game.
Yeah, but how does he not have one here? 5 in the deck, and he didn't play one.
I'm surprised there was no Whisper Agent, actually.
I am, too. That would be the thing. It looks like Ben may have mulliganed quite a bit here. Here's Nightveil Sprite chipping in again. And I got to say, if I'm Ben, I'm feeling pretty good about my position. My opponent has played 3 creatures with a grand total of 2 power.
Yeah, and the thing with Jessie, on Jessie's side, is he's got only swamps on the battlefield. So he probably needs to find a forest to be able to actually cast some of the spells in his hand. And Ben is now sitting in a position where he's got both Devious Cover-Up and Chemister's Insight in hand. So he's got to be feeling really good.
Well, here's Burglar Rat number 2 now for Butler. But it looks like Ben Stark says, yeah, another Guildgate, no problem, but I can recoup some of this card disadvantage by playing Chemister's Insight, one of the more powerful spells in Ben's deck.
Yeah, Ben just needs to find a 2/2 to block.
Yeah, he
one
really
of his
does.
many Electromancers here. Wow, and if you noticed here, Ben actually chooses not to attack with Nightveil Sprite, choosing to preserve his life total and keep the Nightveil Sprite and prevent 2 damage from the Burglar Rats that would attack.
Yeah, the real thing he's giving up here, of course, is a Surveil. But if he feels like his hand looks fine, which it does, he's going to jumpstart his Chemister's Insight here, discarding Sonic Assault, and now he's going to start the attacks again. Uh-oh, bad news for Jessie. He's kept that card on top as well.
Oh, we got a blocker. We got a 2/2.
Finally finds one of his 5 Goblin Electromancers. But still, Ben... But Ben would really still prefer to find some way to get going as far as damage output goes, because he's giving Jessie quite a long time to find to find, his mana. He's still stuck on 3.
Yeah. What is this? Okay. Yeah, and Jessie really just not putting up much of a fight here, just stuck on black mana. He finds the green swords, but it's the Selesnya Guildgate, so he still can't play anything this turn.
Yep. 13.
Yeah,
City Watch Sphinx is exactly what the doctor ordered here for Ben Stark.
and Ben, if you take a look at his hand here, he's just got the counterspell backup here. So, things looking really good. And keep in mind that Ben Stark only needs to keep up 3 mana because there's a Goblin Electromancer in play for that Devious cover-up.
Yeah, it's extraordinarily difficult for Butler to get out from under this because he just has no time to do it at this point. Even he would need back-to-back removal spells to start off with, and that's already hard to do. And he also needs Ben to not find another one of his counter spells in between or another big threat. So really tough spot here for Butler. Just stuck on 3 lands and specifically 3 swamps for just far too long.
Yeah, and Ben just looking really good right now. Jessie Butler is currently on a 2-turn clock here with the Flyers, and he's got double Devious cover-up backup. Oh, and he's got a Sonic Assault in the graveyard.
And that's going to let that Piston Fist Cyclops safely attack into the red zone with only 2 power. But here is main deck Crushing Canopy, a card I love to put in my main deck in this format, and you can see why. He's going to aim it at the City Watch Sphinx. Now, there is Devious cover up here for Stark, and so he's going to go ahead and shuffle Inescapable Blaze back, and that's going to exile the Canopy. But still, you can see, that was a card that he really did need to pay close attention to, and Jessie gets paid off for having it in his game.
Yeah, lots of good Flyers in the format. Sky Knight, Legionnaire, even card like Healer's Hawk. If somebody managed to mentor a token on a +1/+1 counter onto that thing, you do need to have answers to those cards. And even some of the good removal spells in the format. There are good enchantments to target as well. You have Luminous Bonds, Capture Sphere, and sometimes it feels bad, but sometimes you need to Crushing Canopy a disinformation campaign.
Speaking of feels bad, that's Jessie Butler scooping up his cards after not even a blazing start there from Ben. It looked like he was on a mulligan. So Ben ripped one of his sleeves, but he says he doesn't have a spare with him. I did actually catch him asking around for some of the sponsored sleeves there, and so he may need to go find one in between. But at any rate, that was game number 1 going to Ben Stark. He took advantage of the mana issues from Jessie and got the job done. He's going to need to win one of the next 2 to start his Pro Tour off the right way, or maybe we'll see Jessie hit those land drops and fight back. Either way, we're going to catch all the action and more right after these messages.
Looking for a challenge? Magic Online offers monthly limited and constructed events, which lead to the yearly Magic Online Championship. Download Magic Online at mtgo.com and start earning the points you need to enter.
to the feature match area here in Atlanta, Georgia. We are just getting things rolling here for Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. We're in the first booster draft of day one. We've only finished one game so far. A lot more Magic to bring you over the course of the day and the coming weekend. Had a quick chance to chat with Ben about what he thought about his deck, and a lot of the stuff that we said in the booth, he echoed. You know, he said, God, you know, I didn't see any radical ideas. He's like, I was looking for those. Same thing with the Piston Fist Cyclops. He saw one total. He took it. How did he end up actually building this deck?
So I think he looked... It's this weird combination, right? So he's got 5 Electromancers, but he's not playing some of the more aggressive cards like Leapfrog in his deck either. So it's kind of this in-between spot, but I think, you know, he's looking to be a little more controlling. He's actually main decking all 3 copies of Devious Cover-Up to go in his deck. I mean, he's really trying to fully maximize on the cost reduction benefits that he has by having 5 copies of Goblin Electromancer in his deck.
Yeah, his finishing cards were the City Watch Sphinx that we saw before, and Inescapable Blaze. And, you know, we almost said it as in jest, but, I mean, it really is a possibility for him to cast it.
Yeah.
And then buy it back with Devious Cover-Up, and then cast it again, and, you know, use some chip damage in conjunction with 1 or 2 copies of that card to win the game.
Yeah, he's got a lot of counter magic here. He's, again, the 3 Devious Cover-Ups. On top of that, he's got a Disdainful Stroke in his main deck to go with it. And I think that's just a byproduct of probably him just not actually having enough playables that he'd be happy playing with at the end, because that is a lot of counter magic. I know this format tends to be a little bit on the slower side unless you're playing against a very good Boros deck, but you know, 4 counter spells is quite a lot for limited. But he does have those 5 Electromancers. Those things can just be straight up UU counter target spell.
By the way, Simic sleeves there from Jesse. I like throwing the curveball.
Not yet.
He's unreadable.
Got to wait a few months for that one.
Could be anything.
Yeah.
So hopefully things go a little bit better on the mana side here from Jesse in this game. He never really got a chance to show us what his deck could do. To give him credit, though, you know, he did cast a lot of spells that game, even on restricted mana, meaning that he's built his deck, you know, with a lower curve, and that's smart. That's good stuff. But we did see a little bit more out of him because he just got stuck for too long.
Yeah, no, I mean, just taking a look at his deck, it looks like a very solid Golgari deck. Very good mana curve. He's got a couple of good top-end creatures in Siege Worm, and again, splashing the camaraderie with both the Selesnya Guildgate Gateway Plaza, a Plains, and a Flower Flourish.
Looks like Jesse snap mulliganed here, so uh-oh.
Yeah. Not the best way to start your Pro Tour.
No, and of course he's sitting across from the Ben Stark.
Yeah.
Ben's kept his opener. It's not perfect. It is lacking a color of mana, but it does have 2 lands in it. He'd love to see one of his guild gates early on. And there's a keep.
Yeah, it looks like...
Oh, he doesn't like it. Oof. And he bought him, too. You see Jesse just shake his head. He's just really unhappy with his mana situation.
Yeah, he's got a Selesnya Guildgate, a Forest, and all black cards.
And he bottomed.
Yeah.
Oof.
So really, really needs to find a swamp.
All right, well, we're underway. He plays the guild gate. He needs to see a swamp off the top of the library. There's another Electromancer. I believe that's 3 in hand now for Stark, and no black mana thus far. He does have a Sprite, though. Swamp. Jesse, swamp.
Jeez.
Not only was it not a swamp, there was no land there either. And Ben is going to start trying to dig for a mountain unless he found one with this draw step, which is exactly what he did.
Like, I don't need this Disdainful Stroke. You missed a land drop.
Forest off the top.
Okay, and there's a swamp, so...
Oh, swamp off the top. Hey, we're in business. Jessie Butler gets to play a game of Magic today. I like this. All right, so he's going to kick things off with his most mana-efficient play, a Pitiless Gorgon. He can use that to trade for the Electromancer on the ground and stem the bleeding a bit here. All right, we might have a game on our hands here, Paul.
Yeah. I mean, that was the turn. That was very crucial for Jesse to actually be able to find a play this turn.
That's right.
Ooh, and this has got to be pretty scary, though. 2 Electromancers on the battlefield. And, you know, Ben did miss his own land drop, but he gets to play his spells at a very big discount here with double Electromancer.
Right. I think I actually feel worse that he missed his land drop. because it's like now he has all spells in his hand, and he's getting discounted anyway. And there's Beacon Bolt for only 2 to kill the Gorgon.
Yeah, Nightfell Sprite doing work here, just putting spells into Ben Stark's graveyard.
He put 2 counter spells in the yard that he didn't even have to cast. He just simply surveilled them away. Hey, he wants lands anyway, and that turned on that Beacon Bolt for 2. And here's a Swarm Guildmage and another Swarm Guildmage. So things starting to come around now for Jessie. He's able to deploy his cards at least. His hand, well, he's got a lot of mana in there. He's got a Dowser of Lights and a pair of Siege Worms left, it looks like.
Right, and Ben Stark, still needs to do a little extra work to get enough spells in his graveyard to use that Beacon Bolt to get rid of that Siege Worm. But, he does have he does have Sonic Assault in hand, too. So he might just be able to tempo out Jessie if he does tap out for that Siege Worm.
Yeah, and that's definitely what Jessie's looking to do here. He wants to keep every creature on the battlefield so that he has exactly enough to play Siege Worm here. And like you said, this could be disastrous for him if he goes for it, especially if he doesn't have a land. Like, if he has to just tap all of his permanents to get a Siege Worm down, it's probably GG.
Right. It's very, very likely.
He'll be at 10, and then he'll take 2, 4, 6, 7. So he'd be at 3 with a Sonic Assault in the graveyard.
Look at Ben Stark's hand. He's just going to fully unleash the power of these Goblin Electromancers. That Command Storm, 2 mana. Inescapable Blaze, 3 mana.
Actually, he'd be at 1. I miscounted. There's an electrostatic field there, too. So that would be game. And wisely, Jessie Butler just passes the turn back.
But, Ben Stark does have reach spells in his hand. Jessie Butler keeping up mana, and he can gain 4 life off these Guild Mages.
And that's exactly what he does. Back up to 11. But he has to affect the board at some point because Ben just has an army of goblins, and he's going to take the turn to play Dowser of Lights, but we're going to see that thing get tapped down by Sonic Assault.
Yeah, I foresee a Sonic Assault here, followed by another Sonic Assault, and then a big attack. And then there's also, the Inescapable Blaze and Command Storm. So this does seem like the turn. Also, keep in mind, Electrostatic Field is on the battlefield.
That's right.
So every spell Ben Stark casts will deal an extra point of damage to Jessie Butler.
It's going to add up very, very quickly, and somehow Goblin Tribal could get the job done.
Okay, so he tapped down the Barrier of Bones because his plan is to spend a single red mana to command the storm and get that Dowser of Lights off the bat. Look at this.
One mana. We joked about this in the draft, but it actually happened.
Wow.
Command the storm, take another one here down to 11. And now he can even use his Sonic Assault for 3 more down to 7 and clear away all but 1 blocker.
This is, and can he?
Oh, no, he's just going to go for Inescapable Blaze.
That's 7.
You take 7, you go down to 4, attack with everything, and that is the game. Ben Stark with a flurry of spells to finish things off. Gets the job done against Jessie here in the first round. So Jessie Butler is going to start his tournament off as 0-1, but Ben, well, he picked up a win already with this deck. I told you, he kind of had it in the middle, right? It wasn't a bomb deck for him, but it wasn't a total stinker. But boy, 1-0.
You just got to see the full power of those Electromancers. Just 1 mana Command Storm, really?
1 mana. He spent 3 mana to kill a creature
and deal 7 damage.
8 damage with the thing. Yeah, that's pretty. That was pretty impressive use of Goblin Electromancer there from Ben Stark. Who needs lands anyway?
Yeah, right. Jessie Butler did have kind of a slow start because he was missing a few of the lands, but Ben's hand was so strong that I think it was going to be hard.
So we're back on the back table now where we got Richard Tan playing against POY, Player of the Year, Luis Salvato, who we liked his deck when we saw it at the draft wall with Marina Eduardo. Yeah, it looked very, very nice. It looks like he may have just decided to stick to straight Dimir here. We saw him flirting with the idea of splashing for Izoni, perhaps, though maybe he didn't end up doing it.
Yeah, but the power level of his deck is already so high, it just doesn't seem worth it to play 4 additional gates to slow your deck down so that you just get run over by the Boros
But the thing, Paul, is that it never seemed like it was worth it, yet he took Izoni and kept taking gates.
Right.
It's like, wait a second.
He even took a Gateway Plaza over at Dimir Guildgate. And I think that Izoni is actually still a very good sideboard option if he does end up playing against a very slow, grindy matchup. Because, it will be the type of card that just breaks open a stalled game.
Yeah, he did not end up running Izoni. His mana looks very good, though. He's running 3 Dimir Guildgate and 7 of each of Islands and Swamps. As we come in, though, Salvato, he's down a game. Richard Tan up a game over him. Let's see what he's working with here. You can see he's on Boros.
And there's that. It's a very scary card on the battlefield. That's a True Fire Captain in play with Luis Salvato at 8 life.
Yeah.
There's also a Legion Guildmage in play, and Richard Tan's currently sitting at 5 mana. So if he plays an additional land, he can just start burning Luis out with that Legion Guildmage.
Boy, that is real hands-full stuff here for Luis Salvato. How is he going to get his way through this? He's going to play a Plague Crafter.
Also, Luis Salvato has a card that's normally considered a bomb, a very powerful card in that Midnight Reaper. But in this battlefield, Midnight Reaper is not a May trigger. Midnight Reaper says when a creature you control dies, you must lose 1 life and you will draw a card. So Luis, even chump blocking could mean that he's going to lose a significant amount of life. And then Richard might be able to just finish out the game with that Legion Guildmage.
Yeah, this is... Huh.
So, by the way, Marshall. What? Oh, quasi-duplicate. Is that a quasi-duplicated Darkblade agent?
He's going to actually target it on the Playcrafter, though it looks like Richard Tan got rid of one of his True Fire Captains there.
Interesting.
Yeah, to the first Playcrafter. It seems perhaps a little strange here.
Given that, was it tapped?
Yeah, I think so.
By the way, you know how in the draft I was like, Marshall, we didn't see a single Healer's Hawk.
Yeah.
The entire draft.
Yeah.
Richard Tan basically has all of them. He's got 3 Healer's Hawks in his Boros deck.
So
I think he's got a very, very strong Boros Mentor deck going here.
The bird collector over there just snapping them up. That makes sense. We did not see too many go anyway. So at any rate, though, in an interesting line there for Salvato, he gets rid of 2 creatures from Richard Tan.
So
Richard must have sacrificed the
True Fire Captain?
Yeah, the True Fire Captain because of that House Guild Mages. It must have just been on lockdown, and he just figured that Salvato was going to be able to keep it tapped down indefinitely, and that it wouldn't be able to ever get into combat again anyway.
And Richard Tan's got a really nice setup here. He played a Sky Knight Legionnaire, chose not to attack. And Luis Salvato's at 4. He does have the House Guild Mages to lock down the Legion Guild Mage when Richard Tan chooses to use that ability once. But maybe the life totals were not what we thought they were.
Yeah, it was very strange because Luis Salvato just used a removal spell to take out the last of the True Fire Captains, and that prompted a concession from Richard Tan.
Okay, so yeah, my guess is that the life totals
were flopped.
Were probably switched because it doesn't. Just coming into this game, he had a Cosmotronic Wave in his hand. I was just like, this was probably Richard Tan's game to win. He probably had it locked up. So my guess is that the life totals were probably swapped.
Okay, yeah, that must have been it because it just. Okay, that's what would happen. That's what happened. So Richard Tan was sacrificing tapped creatures, not because of the House Guild Mages, because he was under immediate threat and he needed a block.
Richard was actually the one at 4 life.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, well. That makes more sense because I was trying to dig around like, there are House Guild Mages and Luis had a lot of mana, so maybe it was one of those spots where he's just like, I'm never going to get to untap with this, like where basically Luis is like, I'm going to leave this House Guild Mage and these 2 lands tapped, and it's going to just trade off for that True Fire Captain indefinitely.
Yeah, because I was thinking, I'm like, why didn't the True Fire Captain just not attack? Because Richard Tan also had land number 6 to deal 3 damage with the Legion Guild Mage.
Yeah.
So if Luis just chumps with anything, he's going to take that damage.
And
from
then
the
you
True
just
Fire Captain.
get him untapped.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we sorted it out, Paul.
Figured it out.
We're very smart. Yes.
And we have a game 3. And Richard Tan's deck, I mean, just based on the cards that I saw, looks very strong. And he was able to pick up game number 1 against Luis.
Yeah, that means that we're going to force a third and deciding game. Ooh, looks like some pretty serious sideboarding happening here from Richard. There's 3 cards coming in.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with the Boros deck. You know, when you're on the play, you can just go full on aggro, play all the things that really favor you going first. But when you're on the draw, you try to figure out what are the slower cards that I want to play that have more power, if the game does drag on a little bit longer. So he's probably switching back to the more aggressive version, given that he's now going to be on the play game 3.
Right, that makes sense.
And yeah, Richard Tan's got some very, very nice gold cards here. He's got double Legion Guildmage, so he is the Boros drafter at the table. He's got double Legion Guildmage, double Sky Knight Legionnaire, double Truefire Captain, and even Tajik Legion's Edge. Yeah, he's got a ton of the Mentor creatures, and he's even playing Maniacal Rage, as he has 3 Healer's Hawks in his deck. So that's also another way to try to pick up some free wins. Turn 1 Healer's Hawk into turn 2 Maniacal Rage.
That is definitely what I'd qualify as a free win. Some may even call that cheese.
Yeah, a cheese win. Oh, and look at this hand. He's got the Healer's Hawk. He's got a nice curve. If he finds a 3rd land, he can play Tajik. And this is always the type of deck that you're most scared of when you feel like you have an awesome deck. It's like, I really hope they don't go turn 1 Healer's Hawk and just give me the beatdowns.
I live in fear of that, by the way.
Just turn 1 play, and you're like, please, just don't do it. Play a Hunted Witness instead. All right, so Richard Tan, if he finds a land here, he can play Tajik and attack for a ton. Oh, and he missed.
So disappointing. And immediately Salvato is just going to trade off for the Healer's Hawk. Talk about showing that card respect.
Well, absolutely. And just keep in mind, like, Richard Tan, Luis doesn't know that Richard doesn't have land number 3 there. So Richard Tan could easily have followed up this turn by going land Wojak Bodyguard or land Blade Instructor, meaning that Luis Salvato on the following turn would not be able to block that Healer's Hawk with the Dimir Spybug.
Wow, interesting. So Playcrafter hits the battlefield, and by hits the battlefield, I mean goes directly to the graveyard there. And this is huge, though. Richard Tan, boom, getting in now for 6 damage out of nowhere, and Salvato is fully on the ropes. This is Richard Tan's 3rd Pro Tour ever. He's facing down the current player of the year, and currently he's running him over.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Richard Tan's got a Sky Knight Legionnaire in hand, too. This is just a classic Boros draw.
And that's going to do it. Luis Salvato extends the hand, and the ultra curve out there for Richard Tan gets the job done. Beautiful work by him to piece together a lovely looking Boros deck here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Dang,
and
Tajik.
You know, we always kind of are jealous of the sweet value decks that draw a lot of cards and have a really, really powerful late game. Sometimes you just get Borosed, you know? It's always the ultimate equalizer.
I always get Boros.
Yeah, I know.
It's not sometimes.
People always try to go over the top of each other. I'm going to play all these devious cover-ups and Notion Reigns, and then I'm going to play Enhanced Surveillance to recycle through everything. And then your opponents just go Healer's Hawk into Fresh-Faced Recruit into Tajik, and you're just like, oh, maybe I should have
I'll block, I
taken
guess.
some Child of Nights, played some blockers.
Absolutely. All right, well, we've got more action still going in the feature match area here. As you can see, we've got Adam Fox playing against Shoyakeanu.
Oh, I'm really excited. I see a glaive.
Of the guild pack down there?
Yeah, I see a glaive of the guild pack on the battlefield. So that just tells me that Shoya probably has a lot of gates in his deck or has a very bad deck.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because this seems to be the natural home for Glaive of the Guild Pact. It actually really only has one home, which is this type of deck, which is Golgari with a lot of gates, maybe a splash in there, because you get these kind of, they call it the rats and cats deck.
Right.
Right? You get the burglar rats and the generous strays, and they just end up sitting on the battlefield not doing a whole
Look at what's happening here on the other side, though. Adam Fox has an experimental frenzy in play.
Oh, that's what's going on.
He is a Selesny deck splashing experimental frenzy, and he's got a Dawn of Hope on the battlefield. So a couple of very extremely powerful enchantments here. And Adam playing a land off the top there, looking to make additional lifelink tokens here, and he's sitting at a comfortable 18 life. So Adam,
now the
really,
Crawl
really far
Swarm
ahead.
has the glaive, but I don't actually see a gate on the battlefield, do I?
Yeah, I don't.
So it just gets menace.
Right.
It's doing its best Dimir Spybug.
Here we go, land, and it looks like another land probably. But if Adam wants to continue digging through, he can attack with his lifelink tokens. The Dawn of Hope triggers off each individual life gain trigger off of those soldier tokens. So Adam can attack with all of his soldiers, pay 6 mana, and draw 3 cards off the Dawn of Hope. But keep in mind, Adam can't play cards in his hand currently because that Experimental Frenzy is on the battlefield. But if he so chose, he can pay 4 mana to sacrifice the Experimental Frenzy to get it off the battlefield.
This is absurd.
Look at this.
He looks at the next card and then says, I'll probably draw off that one too.
Yeah, they all go on the stack independently, so he can choose not to draw the card if he wants to play the spell on top of his library with Experimental Frenzy.
That's right, and he did find something
Look
else to
at
play
this.
here, a Boros Locket, and Adam Fox.
Oh, wait.
Whoa, buddy.
It's not quite Future Sight. I think that's the card that a lot of people compare Experimental Frenzy to.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. But that was a Conclave Cavalier, so that'll be coming down the pipe way later on. He's going to end up drawing that card and not be able to cast it out of his hand. But he has so many cards in his hand at this point that we may see him just pay the 4 mana to destroy his own Experimental Frenzy.
Yeah, but Shoya is getting in for a lot of damage. Adam Fox at some point probably needs to find an answer to the Crawl Swarm.
He really does, because he just he's facing down Vigor Spore Worm, which was for, I think, 6, he said?
Wow.
Yeah, and that's a big hit of damage. He targeted the Crawl Swarm with it.
And yeah, Adam Fox is drawing this Cavalier, meaning that he can't actually cast it.
Right. So it may be time soon to get rid of it, although, boy, it is a tough sell.
Right.
Look at this. He plays Devkaren Dissident, finds a Plains off the top. He has so much mana now available as well.
Look at the cards in his hand.
What does he have? Let's look. He's got, well,
All
we
of
knew
the
the
cards.
Cavalier, and then he's got but no removal here.
Yeah, no way to actually get that Crawl Swarm out. I mean, he does have a Parhelion Patrol.
Yes.
So he can sack Experimental Frenzy here, play the Patrol, and double block with Hitchclaw Recluse and the Parhelion Patrol.
That might be
is
the
an
plan
option.
here, Paul.
He can also use that Sprouting Renewal to get that
kill the
glaive off
glaive,
off the battlefield, because if he does that, then that removes the menace that's currently sitting on the Crawl Swarm.
I'd be tempted to do that with some of his ground creatures, though. And now that I'm looking at a Vigor Spore Worm, I might be a little more hesitant about that.
And it looks like that's what he's going for here. Sprouting Renewal, of course, has Convoke here.
Right.
Using the Disenchant effect.
Yeah, now he's set himself up beautifully at a fairly comfortable 11 life to fully lean in on Dawn of Hope.
Yeah, keep in mind, he already has a fantastic card draw option and mana sink in Dawn of Hope. At this point, he doesn't really need that Experimental Frenzy.
No, he can make 3 lifelinkers per turn.
Right.
Just and then just run over his opponent.
The real question is if Adam Fox will at some point be able to turn it around and start pressuring Shoya. Okay, so Shoya is activating the Swarm Guildmage here to give the Vigor Spore Worm Menace. Oh! That is a nice little combination there, by the way. Vigor Spore Worm's text says it cannot be blocked by more than one creature. So if you give it Menace, it's unblockable.
Whoa! Really? That's cool.
I mean, Adam didn't block.
Yeah. Would you have?
Oh, and that's another cap. Adam needs to find a removal spell for that Swarm Guildmage.
That has been the one thing that he
Oh
has
my
missed.
God. Adam has, yeah, I mean, he totally went up, drew all these cards. Now he has to sack this Boros Locket to find an answer for that Swarm Guildmage. But he's a green-white deck.
Desperately digging right now just to try to outrace this Vigor Spore Worm?
Yeah, I mean, he can gain some life. He can mentor into a lifelinker. But that Vigor Spore Worm is crunching in for 7 next turn because it's a 6/4 and it gets +1/+0 and menace.
+1/+0. Like, he needs to get to 8 life somehow.
Wow.
Has Shoyakeanu really assembled the combo to beat the level of power that we saw on the battlefield here from Adam Fox?
Yeah, Adam Fox is like 10 cards up on Shoya here. But
I have never seen
matter.
anybody do this, by the way.
The old Swarm Guildmage plus Vigor Spore Worm.
Right.
Because oftentimes you look at that mode and it's like, oh, that's just kind of like flavor text, right?
Well,
that's just, you
I mean,
know.
I'll be honest, a lot of times I look at those cards and I go, I'd rather just play these other ones.
Well, yeah, Swarm Guildmage is pretty reasonable.
Is
but,
it?
I mean, you know, it gives you a lot of utility for a 2-drop, right?
I can't argue with it right now. I'll tell you that, Paul. This thing is looking fantastic. And here goes the Boros Locket.
Here we go.
To
He
find
needs an
something.
answer. Don't think that was it.
He's looking at 100 cards in hand. He's almost out of cards in his library. He has a nearly unbeatable board state, and he cannot block
Of all the ways to
Vigor
lose,
Spore Worm.
I did not expect this to be one of the ways that a player was going to lose a game. An
plays the Kevlar
unblockable
and
Vigor
passes.
Spore Worm.
Watch this. Kyono's going to be like, I don't think he's got it.
What can you have?
Activate.
Look at
attack
this.
for 7. Removal. And that's
Wow.
game. Shoyakeanu assembles
Goodness.
the super combo and gets the job done. I'm in shock right
Yeah.
now. I did not think we were going to see a match decided on that 1-2 punch.
We in the pro community call that kind of mising a win.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those, you were so far behind, how can you possibly win? And you just somehow assembled this 2-card combo that you almost never see and use it to beat a person who's up over 10 cards on you. Wow.
I mean, that's incredible. He had Dawn of Hope and Experimental Frenzy in full churn. I mean, he had 12 or 13 lands on the battlefield.
He had a ton of mana, was making a ton of tokens, going through his deck. He was nearly going to deck. It just didn't have removal. I mean, that is one of the problems when you draft the Celestia deck is there's just not a lot of removal spells that you have access to. Everybody's fighting over that Luminous Bonds. And, you know, given the nature of the way his deck was constructed, I'm not even sure that he'd be playing something like a Prey Upon because it was a very defensive, slow deck. But wow, I can't believe Vigor Spore Worm plus Swarm Guildmage is what it took to win that match.
Vigor Swarm Worm gets the job done there. Wow.
Yeah.
That was incredible. I'm shocked. You know, I've played a lot of this format, and I haven't had that on my side or the other side, and I'm just surprised that, like, an interaction somehow that has slipped through the cracks for me ended up winning a match at the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
But
Adam was at,
was nice.
It was at like 22 life. And just got attacked 3 times by the worm and the crawl swarm.
Crawl swarm.
And it just took 3 swings to actually just win that match. Wow.
Wow, fantastic stuff, and a great way to end round number 1 here from Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. We're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, though, we'll be back with more live action. Don't go anywhere.